You're going to do the same thing that we did with the cover with the shock mounts as it is to the frame. You're going to line it up with the blue line, and right at the end of the ball where that seam is, you're going to line that up with the edge of the retainer here, okay? Again, I'm going to line it up with the blue line, put the back of that ball straight flush with the edge of the retainer, and weld it. Okay, now whenever your shock mounts are now in position, what you're going to do is lay your completed cover directly onto the frame, okay? Okay, once your cover's on there, every cover is going to come with 5 pieces of bracket with rivets in it, okay? 2 of the brackets have holes in it, holes in the back of it. The 2 with the holes in it go on the ends, and this is for the pressure of the shocks. You're going to use needle nose vice grips to hold these into place, and you're going to squeeze them real hard, okay? That way you can test the cover before you actually weld it, okay? The reason you need to test it is because if one of these pieces of bracket are put into the wrong position, too far up or too far down, it'll kink up. If it kinks up, and you can always readjust your bracket accordingly, okay? Now that you have your cover up on top, you're just going to set these in position, okay? You're going to set the ones with holes on the ends, you're going to set them on the end pieces. Then one of these in the center, and in between it, okay? Now, the first thing you're going to do is set the cover. It's flush with the frame right now, but with the pressure of the shocks pushing down on it, if you would weld it in position right now, the pressure would actually make the cover hang off the bottom. So what I do is I go up about 1.5/16 to 1/8 of an inch, depending on the pressure of the shock, okay? So I make a little lip right here, and then you want to hold this bracket flush and clamp it into position temporarily with these regular squeeze clamps, okay? Then you want to put pressure down on it to make sure, and you have a small lip. You want to do the same thing to the other side. You're going to create some distance between the cover and the bottom of the frame. All right, once all your pieces of bracket are secured with the squeeze clamps, you're going to go back with needle nose vice grips, the ones on the ends. You're going to set your needle nose in. You don't want to come too close to the back side or it'll try to make the bracket roll. You want to stick them in far enough to where it's going to actually clamp it flush against your divider, okay? And whenever you set your needle nose vice grips, you want them tight enough to where you're going to strain to squeeze them. Okay, once it's set into place, you're now ready to put your shocks on and give it a good test run, okay? All right, now that it's secure, you're going to now take your shock. In this case, it's a 45-pound shock. And you're going to pop it on. The thick part of the cylinder always goes to the frame, okay? Now I'm going to lift the cover up and pop it onto that one, okay? I'm going to do the same to the other end. And I'm going to shut my cover. And what you're wanting to pay attention to when you're shutting it is the top hinge part, okay? If your bracket starts moving drastically, you know you have some kind of problem. Either your bracket's pushed up too far or too far down towards you, okay? Hopefully, the first time you'll get it right. You're going to just pull the cover down, okay? And once it's down, you want to check. See how this is now flush before it was set up a little bit? That's the reason, because of the pressure of the shock, it's pushing down. Right now on each end, you've got 45 pounds of pressure pushing down, okay? And the cover might feel a little flimsy, But the reason being is because there's not a flat sheet of polycarbonate clear in it, all right? Once the flat sheet gets in, it'll stiffen it up a little more. But this, you have no choice. You have to open it and shut it. So what you want to do is center yourself up on the cover, okay? I'm going to check my other end. It's pretty flush. Now what I'm going to do is open it and shut it, okay? By doing that 3, 4, 5, 10 times, you're confident that it's not going to kink up, okay? So now the next step is to weld your bracket, all right? Now, this is important. Before you weld your bracket, you make sure your door is shut, okay? From experience, I've noticed that if I weld it while it's open, it makes the bracket flex a little bit, and it could cause problems after you're done welding and the bracket cools off, okay? So you want to make sure your doors are shut whenever you weld your bracket, okay? Even if this cover was a cover without shocks, you would do the same process. The only difference is you wouldn't, whenever you set your bracket, you would set it flush, okay? Because there's no pressure coming down, all right? So now since I've tested that, I'm ready to weld my bracket. All right, now I'm going to demonstrate that. First thing I'm going to do is weld right over here to the right of the hole. You've got about 1.5 to 2 inches worth, and you want to fill that up, okay? I'm going to tack it here about 1.5 inch long bead. I'm going to do one in the center about 2 inches, and I'm going to do one to the left of the hole, okay? You want to make sure you penetrate into the bracket and into the divider. It's real important because like I said before, 45 pounds of pressure, you know, it's going to make that want to buckle up, okay? Okay, once you have your welds on the front, there's a small lip over here to the back of the bracket. For extra support, you can put a small tack on it. Be careful not to get too far high or you'll interfere with the hinged part of the F, okay? So this side piece of the bracket, you might want to put you a tack in it, okay? Okay, that's all there is to it. What I like to do is go from one end to the other, and once you have your 2 end pieces, you can go 1, 2, 3. All right. I just don't like to do straight down because you want to distribute the heat evenly. Okay. Now your cover is secured to your frame. The last step you have to do now is mount your locks. Your locks are actually mounted to the cover, but what has to be done is you have to, one of the gussets, the 2 inch by 2 inch gussets that are supplied with the cover, you need to cut them down to 15/16 of an inch. Once it's cut down to 15/16, you unlock your lock, okay? What you're going to do is set it into position, right? Once it's in position, you have your 2 bolts with the screws through it, okay? You're going to use them as guides. That from here to here, right in the dead center, is your lock hole, okay? That's where your plunger is going to come through. So I'll go up against this side, mark it even with this bolt, come over here, and you're going to mark it even with this bolt, okay? Once you have your 2 marks, if your lock's in at a slight angle, these 2 marks will be, one will be high, one will be low, okay? And the reason you need to make 2 marks is if one's high and low, you're going to have a little bit of an angle at it, okay? Regardless if you have an angle or they're perfectly aligned, you want to make a line across your gusset. And you're going to put an X on it. You want to go right in the center of the gusset like that, okay? Your next step is going to be drill that hole out. Now that I have my hole drilled, I'm going to set it into place, okay? And I'm going to clamp it. Where it's clamped at, you want to make sure your plunger lock moves freely. If it scoots up against the edge of it, you can adjust it a little bit. That plunger lock moves freely, okay? This lock gusset also works as a guide. If it's shifted over too much to the right or left, then the opposite end of the cover is going to actually be shifted, okay? So you don't want to weld one and then go to the other end. Once it's in place, you go down to the other end of the cover and you do the same thing with that lock, okay? Then you want to check to see if your cover's flush with the edge. If it is, you want to check the end that you had just done and it's flush. You're ready to weld it. Okay. Once your locks are secure, you can take all your clamps off. All right, I hope I've been helpful to you guys, and if you have any more questions, feel free to call us here at McGill Marketing.